My name is Kevin, and I'm the atypical cripple, and I'm with Katek.
Good evening.
This is round 2 of this little thing that we're doing. So anyway,
About how we met.
right.
Yeah.
Okay. So we met at church or at your in-laws.
My in-laws at the time.
Right, right. And I became quite a fixture in your family for a while, didn't I?
Yeah, indeed. Well, yeah, in particular, you still are for me, but obviously time and circumstances have, we have less time now.
Well, your kids are teenagers, and
Yeah.
Uncle Kevin didn't become creepy, which is a good thing. But
Yeah,
Uncle Kevin is a little weird.
Well, everybody's weird the more you get to know them. I think that's a true statement. But yeah, I mean, for many years, and that's why we call you Uncle Kevin, is because you were, for many years, like when we lived with my in-laws in their condo,
Mm-hmm.
we were there for 2 years. Then we went into
North.
downtown Tacoma
Mm-hmm.
for 2 years, and then into Federal Way for 2 years at one house, and then to another house for, I don't know, five years after that, and so on. But until we moved out of that second house in Federal Way, I would say you were quite a fixture. Well, at one point you moved away as well, and somewhere in there, and that
did put a bit of a crimp in our.
put a crimp in it. But you were around at least once a week, most of the time for a number of years, and even when you weren't around once a week, I would stop by on lunch breaks because I had that flexibility, and you were, between some stops I was making, and so yeah, we saw a lot of each other.
Yes.
And we had many late nights writing papers, both yours and mine, and
Well, you want to tell about the one paper about the Roth and the slaughter bench of history?
Roth and the slaughter bench of humanity.
Yes.
No, that was just frustrating.
Well, right. You know where we were. I'm sure your professor was like, thought it was a little weird. I was comparing people to toasters.
To toasters? Yeah, she didn't quite like that one. No, that overall was a class I didn't particularly care for.
Well, and you were going to a Lutheran school or whatever, and you found
Pacific Lutheran University.
And the weird thing was you were taking a Bible class, and you weren't allowed to use the Bible as a source.
As a source, yeah. And that honestly was, I mean, it's challenging in one way because it causes you to look elsewhere for your information that you've always just gone to your one source for. But on the other hand, if we're talking about the God of the Bible,
right,
then the Bible is the authoritative source, and now we're not allowed to use it. So
kind of makes you wonder.
Yeah, what were they really trying to? What conclusion were they really trying to get us to come to? I'm not sure.
Well, I think that's why she didn't like my toaster analogy, because I kind of saw what they were doing, and I didn't. I felt like you and I were on the same wavelength. We wanted to uphold that which was worthy of upholding. Yep. And it seemed like all they wanted to do was to grade it.
And they were the school is not a conservative Lutheran philosophy. So yeah, I mean we started off on different feet, that school and I. So
well, you only went there for one.
Yeah, one quarter. Well, yeah, I
think that was all you had.
2 part-time jobs.
Yes.
And those 2 part-time jobs equated to about 10 hours a day. and I had a wife and 2 kids at home, and then I was taking a full load of classes. So, my day was up at 4 and
It
finally
was
back home after school at say 10, and then I had
right.
2 hours to do homework and then get up at 4 again. So that was not sustainable.
Now, I don't think our entire friendship he had that much schedule, but you knew what you could accomplish. And,
Yeah. I mean, that can be challenging when you're working hard for your family, but you begin to compromise
right,
said family due to how hard you're working. And
right,
you know what the priority is, but sometimes it's hard to solve that problem, especially like in the short term, because you can't just quit your work.
right.
And I was vested in school, but that was the one thing I could quit, and so I had to stop. Had to stop that at that time.
I don't think you missed that much.
No, I mean, bittersweet though. I wanted to go to college. I wanted to have some of that experience. I wanted to, but I don't know what that experience would have been. I wasn't on campus. I was having to work. I couldn't really participate in the social aspect. So, yeah.
Neither could I, even in grad school. Because they'd have little get-togethers and things like that unless it was on campus.
Yeah.
I wasn't able to go, and in fact, sometimes I'd have little get-togethers at my place. And even still, it was like one of those things where you try to get some work done. It's like the dynamic is not conducive to getting work done.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I had to let go of some ideas
Right.
as we do as we get older, and
Right.
sometimes we embrace new ones, just let them go too. But as a teenager, I visited my sister in college, and I saw a culture that was fun, and it was appealing, and people were free, doing their own thing, being their own people, sort of on this journey alone but together. And you always hear people meet their best friends in college, and this is the beginning of sort of the rest of your life. Really, you're an adult and you're starting off on your own, and these relationships, what you learn here now is really your foundation for adulthood.
Right.
So I think I still held on to some of those things, and what I had to realize is that I was already married, had a kid, 2 kids, had 2 jobs, and I was sort of already past a lot of that.
You were living in a way that was like you had skipped that section of life that I had a lot of experience in.
Yeah.
I probably brought a lot of, hey, I had a good time, so sorry about that. But, it was a good time while I was there, but it didn't translate to anything. It didn't get me anywhere. You saw when I was working up in Seattle.
Mm-hmm.
What was it like from your perspective hearing me? Because I ran 2 different wheelchairs into the ground in that 6-month period of time. And it was like if there was anything I was able to do, it was, this is it. I'm getting a job, I'm making money, I'm making headway. And it was like, do you remember that caregiver I had, Big Double D?
Oh yeah. Yep.
Double D, remember? And what?
Yeah, I remember.
Right. And I treated that guy like crap. Because it was like I'm trying to work. He's trying to work too. His job's to make me work out, and my job's to go out and make $3,500 a month.
Yep.
Which was like more than money than I've ever made in my life.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a $70,000 a year job.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that seemed like something worthy of your degree, like a place that you should go.
Right.
I was excited for you for the prospect, and I mean I know there were challenges, but
Mm.
you were you were you seemed very happy to have the opportunity, despite the frustrations. Right?
Oh yeah.
It seemed like a good thing.
It was, but it didn't. It didn't translate to long run. It was there. It was fine for a time, and then it just fell flat.
Yeah. Now was it intended to become a permanent position, or was it like an internship type of a situation?
It was an internship, but they were sussing me out.
Yeah.
And it was determined later. Don't worry about it. Although you can come to our, they liked me as a person. I was able to come in and edit a map for them, which was the only geography related thing I did for them. And ended up coming in, they're like, oh, yeah, we don't have money in our budget. Thank you so much. I'm like, did I just work for free? We love your altruism.
Like you don't know me very well.
Yeah. It needless to say, I didn't go back to the reunion.
Yeah. What I know you've told me before, but what led you to pursuing geography as your focus?
I didn't want an office. So I like maps. I like being outdoors, as you know.
Mm-hmm.
Problem is, the outdoors doesn't like me.
Yeah, it's a little inhospitable to your circumstances.
Right. I go out in the dirt, and then the dirt kind of takes over the wheelchair. And anyway, for me, I like the idea of vicariously experiencing the wilderness through the maps. And I figured if I couldn't be outdoors, I could be experiencing the outdoors by doing map work. Because
Yeah. And you find the work rewarding?
I did for a while.
Well,
All of the work I ever did was academic. I mean, really, I should have become a professor.
well, and you had an opportunity at one time, right?
No.
For one of the community colleges?
Well, I tried getting a job at Highline, one of the schools up in Kent or Des Moines.
Yeah, it's up in Des Moines.
I went to Highline, and the geography chair's like, come on in, sit down. Oh, sorry about that. You're already sitting. I'm going to tell you how this works. See, we got a lot of other classes out in peripheral schools, and we abuse people to a degree to see how well they respond by going from Everett to Shelton. It's like hazing. But they do it on purpose. Because the next person that does it is the low person on the totem pole. And so they got this whole thing where it's like, and you can't go through that process, so no job for you.
Wow. So it wasn't even a denial on the basis of your skills. It was a denial on the basis of your inability to be hazed the way they wanted to haze you.
Bingo.
Yeah.
Which is like grad school.
Yep.
Because they told us how big's the thesis got to be. It's like a beginning, a middle, and an end. And then they told you later through lots of scut work between 90 and 200 pages.
Yeah.
Right. So there's that. Had you ever experienced something like that? where due to something you can't control, you're just like, not that you opted out, but somebody opted you out for you.
No, I can't say that I ever have.
Okay.
I haven't had that experience.
Well, you must be white.
And male, yeah.
Right. I'm not gonna say due to the graveliness of your voice, but
No, but I did. This was in high school, and it was uncomfortable. I was working at a restaurant, and I had a manager there, a lady. So I was 16 at the time, and she was in probably her 40s.
She come on? Yeah.
Oh well, to the extent that she could and get away with it.
Oh right.
I was a busboy, but she would ask me to scrub the floor in the kitchen, and then she'd stand there and watch me.
Oh God.
And then when I'd be done scrubbing the floor in my slacks, she'd say, "Well, let me buy you dinner." And of course, it's on the house, right? It's a restaurant. She's a manager, so she just comps the dinner to you. But that she lasted for about 2 months, and every night I worked with her, I just felt dirty. But I was a teenage boy, and she wasn't totally unattractive, so part of me kind of liked it too. But overall, it gave me just a glimpse. I mean, it really was just a glimpse into what a situation is like that, and it was not a preferable situation, not real comfortable. But I've got to say, I've been pretty blessed in not having to deal with too many of those kind of situations.
Well, yeah, as one friend of mine at church once said, if you were a woman, Kevin, your situation would be completely different. I think he's right in that regard.
Yeah.
So, we've gotten out to the points where my uncle, we go hang out at my uncle's. How did that work out?
Well,
I mean,
he was
be
an
nice.
Hmm?
I mean, we should try and be kind. But
we can be kind. I mean, he was generous, but he definitely wanted to be told how generous he was.
Right.
And I really appreciated the time that we spent at his place, and I didn't mind doing work. But
the cost became too high.
Yeah, it did. But we've talked about going back out there one of these days. It might be fun to give it a try again.
There's a lot more fencing out there nowadays.
Well, I bet there is.
Well, no, because the last time we went out there, we went down a corridor of barbed wire. Because they had fences on both sides of the road.
Yeah. If you didn't know where you were going, it wouldn't have been a friendly place to drive.
No.
That's for sure.
Which I think is the point.
I think it is, yeah, because his property was up a kind of obscure side road, and then off that you went up this dirt road, kind of zigzagged around 2 or 3 different properties just to get to his.
You want to draw a map?
You should do that. Maybe that's all the more experience we need out there.
That's funny. But no, I think you're right in that sense. But
we had a lot of good times out there.
Yeah, I think we liked it so much because there was nothing out there.
Yeah, and
I think now that there's some things out there, it's like more rules.
Yeah, probably.
I mean, the last time we went out there, it was like, you guys can only shoot but for 30 minutes at a time.
Yeah, well, he had the one neighbor who was not real happy with it.
No.
And then the sort of the next door neighbors right there with the 13 acres, there was a place that we could go down kind of over the hill.
Yeah.
And the noise didn't really carry, but they moved on from there, and that place wasn't open to us anymore.
Right.
And those neighbors were part of the reason it was fun out there.
Right.
Yeah. So, yeah, it changed.
But. Yeah, it did. Do you remember that guy you went after for, there was this one guy out there that I went after for making fun of, he was either going after you or going after the landowner, giving him a hard time.
Was that one of the friends of the neighbors?
Yes.
Yeah.
And then I give him so much crap, and he's just like, The guy in the wheelchair is like beating up on
Yeah,
me.
that was funny. And he wasn't he was polite enough, but he was certainly a crass individual,
Oh yeah,
and he liked to throw it out there. But I think he couldn't quite take it
from me.
from you. Yeah,
Right.
he didn't know what to make of you.
Well, right, because it was like if he gave me a good, zinger, what was I gonna do? Was I gonna
Yeah, no, and you didn't take any of his crap. It was pretty funny, but yeah,
Right.
I think he got tired of not being the winner in every conversation.
Well, I think that's a part of my persona, don't you think? Where it's like
Well, dude, that's what drove you to go to college in the first place, and then
on
go
grad
in
school.
Hawaii, just to kind of show the people who doubted you that you could do it. You weren't going to give up.
Well, and that's why I do this here, because that seems to be something that doesn't I can't seem to quite get ahead on.
Yeah, well, I wonder if one of the things that bonds us is sort of an unwillingness to give in to circumstances. Um,
We're just a couple of jerks.
We're nice jerks.
Well, I'm
You're a nicer jerk than you used to be.
yes. At least my caregivers called me your assholiness.
Yeah, all right. That's progress, I suppose. Instead of just your ass. Right?
Yes.
You've made some progress.
Well, that's what one of my caregivers used to call me way back when. Your assholiness.
At least you got a title out of it.
No, it's not quite ecclesiarch, but I'll take it. So we've now known each other for over 20 years.
Yes.
We've gone through a lot of changes. Do you have any hopes for me?
Well, you've changed a lot. Yes, you've
Okay.
changed a lot, especially since you moved to your current location. I mean, the city you're in.
You can say Olympia.
All right, since you moved to Olympia, and you had quite the challenge and moved down here. You had a great opportunity. You had a paid internship again, and then they did the hiring freeze, and you've just sort of been stuck professionally in using being able to use your degree.
Given up.
Yeah. Well,
I think that was harder on you than it was on me.
yeah, it was hard, but I've learned to see that differently. I mean,
Right.
at some point, it's not worth the effort to fight a battle when you can redirect your energies elsewhere and find success. I don't know if that's quite giving up or cutting your losses. I mean, I think there's a fine difference.
I think there's a recognition that I am educated. I know how to, I don't want to say it like that, but divine truth in the way that, I've held my own with some pretty cantankerous Christians. People that I would say started out pitying me and then ended up hating me because I didn't just give in to whatever they wanted.
Yeah.
And then, so there's this cycle of, oh, Kevy, I want to come help. Oh, God, I hate this guy. He doesn't let me do what I want to do.
Right, which goes back to why are you helping, for yourself or for the person you're trying to help?
Right.
That's a repeating record that you have to deal with.
Right.
Yeah.
Almost as often as I hire people. Might there be a link?
Yeah, well, that's what was the story with the you were in the church parking lot and a guy came by and patted you on the head in your van.
Oh, that was Mike.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can talk about Mike because Mike doesn't exist in my life anymore. But yeah, you was like comes up and pats me on the head. And like, hey dude, why don't you go pat that big guy over there? And he's like, he kicked my ass. I'm like, should I do less? And he's like, oh, I'm sorry, I had no idea. And I'm just like, what's next? You gonna put your elbow on my head?
You use me as a side table.
Right,
Yeah.
right. I mean, I've heard jokes where it's like, women make jokes like, what's the ideal guy? Flathead, 3 foot high with the 2 foot long tongue. 3 foot high so you can stick a drink on his head.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, that's funny. It's like, yeah, okay.
Well,
That's how but yeah, what I've learned is that body language is like 70% of human communication.
yeah, it's big.
And when I communicate with people, I don't give the right body language. Therefore, subconsciously, they're like, I can't communicate with this guy. I think there's a certain element of that here.
Yeah, I think it
On
makes people
YouTube.
uncomfortable for sure.
Huh?
Not being able to perceive or understand someone's
Right.
body language is confusing. It's a little confounding. And
Well, not only when you do this all the time. I'm sorry. Are you attracted to me? No, I'm trying to relax so I can talk to you because I got lockjaw. Oh,
yeah. Well, when we first met too, I mean, you would, and I'm sure it's part of the mechanisms you learned, sort of defense mechanisms growing up, or but you would dominate most conversations.
oh, I still dominate conversations.
Yes,
My
but
pastors
but
actually.
you've learned to listen. You've learned to pause and listen, and that made you, I think, much more accessible to people than you were before.
Okay, there you got it. The guy that's known me for 20 years, I got it on tape. I do listen.
Most of the time.
What?
Most of the time.
I have room for improvement.
Well, if I've learned anything through marriage, it's that I listen a lot less often than I thought I did. So I think that's a lesson we can all learn from for the rest of our lives.
The problem is when you sit down to listen and then all you hear is wah, 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 and you're trying to piece it together and it's like, so Timmy's in the well or the mine? Is it too condescending?
I don't know. I think it's representative of what you're saying.
And of course, you would know that. So let's talk about how bad it's been for me as far as that 20-year experience with caregivers. Because I seem to remember a certain caregiver that you're like, no, excuse me, ex-wife, no, excuse me, I got to let you know, I wouldn't trust this guy with putting together a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. You remember that one?
Yes, I don't remember who it was in reference to.
Well, there was an R and an Ard.
Yes. Okay. The Ard?
Ard.
Yeah.
I've had multiple Ards, so I got to be careful.
Yeah. Well, I know the one you're referring to.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, you've
Ard should not have been anywhere near a person in a wheelchair.
well, he had a hard time taking care of himself, and I think he didn't have, and I don't mean this condescendingly, but he didn't have a real good grasp on his own reality. And
Well, when you're saying that you're seeing angels fly through the house.
yes. Yeah, it's challenging, and you're depending on these people to help help you and
Yeet.
potentially life,
Yes.
life situations, right? I mean, from eating, but they may also have to save your life if something happens, or I mean, you know, can these people help you up? Can they help transport you?
Oh,
Can they move you around? I mean, you got some serious limitations.
I
And those
have
people are responsible for you, and they can't take care of themselves.
I have an anti-choking device, and if I aspirate, the protocol is for them to get it, place it over my mouth, and suck it out. Right? Last time I choked, there was a caregiver here. I'm eating chicken nuggets. It went down my lung. I felt part of it deflate, which scared the hell out of me.
Mm-hmm.
And she's looking at me like, what do I do? I like, call 911. And she paused for 30 seconds
Oh, jeez.
while I'm choking, just standing there. And then I clear it out, and I'm like, no, don't call 911, I got it. But for that 30 seconds, she's just like, I'm just like,
Yeah, those are critical seconds. I mean, that's life threatening.
Yes. And we've had those situations where me and my other, but, I like to tell people I have two best friends. And I'm very lucky to have you both. And one time we were all together and I stopped breathing.
Mm-hmm.
You remember that?
Yeah.
And that other friend grabbed me, gave me a hard slap to the back. And oh, wow. Oh, okay. It can happen that quick. I think we're eating meat brick.
Yeah, probably.
And we're having a good time. But if he had not acted, and that's what it takes. And I know you can do it. I know he can do it. But the people that are here that are told to be here, they're marginal at best. I mean, I think the only one that could really deal with me now, I mean, there are very few that can deal with me. And just physically, let alone emotionally. And, we were talking earlier, it's like, how do you communicate with people when you don't have the common frame?
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like, you wrestle them down to where it's like, okay, now we know what we're talking about, and you just don't want to do the task. And then they get angry at me for, well, why'd you have to wrestle me down?
Yeah. Well, so let's turn this around a little bit. How have you learned to communicate with them differently? Because I know you've gone through some of that, and you've gone through some real self-reflection about
Right.
what that communication looks like. Because, you are more or less stuck with, it seems, a selection of people who do this job, many of which have a hard time with those types of situations. And communication was hard, and I know that you went through a time where, and maybe this is still true, where a lot of them wanted to also sort of like just be your buddy, just be your friend. And not that you can't be friendly, but, even in professional environments, it's like you can be friendly with your coworkers, but your coworkers aren't your friends. It isn't to say that relationships can't develop maybe outside of work, but in this situation, people are in your home, right? So it's a more intimate setting than an office space.
Mm-hmm.
And they're doing things like helping you eat, helping you do any number of things, cleaning your house.
We read my care plan, so don't be embarrassed. We read it as a.
Well, sure. So to my question initially is how have you learned to respond to them and to communicate differently over the years? Because I know that some of that has been helpful to you.
You reduce standards.
Yeah, you lower your expectations.
Yes.
Um,
And you lower them to the point that they can actually complete a task.
so you have to give some things up.
Right. And the question is, am I giving up enough to accommodate the relationship? Look, there was this one guy who was like, he was so bad. I was out exercising him.
Yeah.
And he had diabetes, and I had to get rid of him. But the problem was, there was no one on the other side to replace him. So I had to be real super sneaky squirrel to put out feelers without getting back to him. And being a small community, that's hard. And then I turned him in for being so unhealthy, and they said, "Yeah, we'll just get him the non-critical clients."
Yeah. Well, and some of your caregivers have caregivers themselves.
Well, well, they should. Many of them, like there's this one guy I got right now. He's super nice, but when he put together the lockbox,
Mm-hmm.
he smacked it and then walked off. So he just jammed it. I'm like, I'm in bed. I'm like, he just jammed it. And so I gotta wait the whole night for someone to not check it.
Yep.
And then the next morning, caregiver shows up. What the hell? And, so the problem is not just dealing with one caregiver that's bad. The problem is how to not let it bleed over onto the other people.
Well, yeah. I mean, you really are taking the position of a manager, right?
Right.
You're mitigating the effects of one employee on the other.
Mm-hmm.
And again, this is not doing an office job. It's caring
Yeah.
for your health and well-being. So those are certainly challenges most people don't have to face.
Well, when the printer gets a pressure sore, nobody cares.
I just replace some parts and move on.
Bingo.
Yeah.
Cannot do that with me. Although, maybe we could do that if I were to, give my life over to Amazon. Hey, dude, I would totally do RoboCop too.
You become the cyborg.
No. Hey, dude, that'd be awesome. Could you imagine me as cyborg?
It might be a little scary.
Why? Just drop me into Afghanistan. Oh, the place cleaned up in a couple of years.
I'm gonna start calling you Murphy.
Murphy's Law.
No, RoboCop.
Murphy. Oh, gosh. So we've been doing this a while. You've been fed.
Yes, I've been fed.
Yes.
Yep.
And
That's good.
so we've been doing this a while. You had some reservations coming online.
Yeah, it's new and different. I mean,
I think you're doing well.
we
Well, if you ever wanted to say hi to all my friends in Hawaii, this is your opportunity because half of them are on Facebook, and I present this to Facebook.
yes, well, hello Hawaii. Someday I'd like to go there with you.
I would like that too. I met a lot of great people, and I want to invite those people online if they want to come out and talk about their experience with me, because we had some good times there. But I want to thank you for coming online with me. This has been fun, and this is what I hope to be a beginning for us.
Yeah, I'll definitely do this again.
Okay. Well, we're about 30 or so minutes into this one, I think. 40 minutes into it. Ooh, time flew.
I think we hit the hour with 2 conversations.
Oh, we hit more than an hour. We're like an hour and a half.
Nice.
But thank you for coming on, Architect.
You're welcome.
That was fun, and I'll tell you again real soon. So my name is Kevin. I am the atypical cripple. Yeah, where's the cursor at? There it is. All right. Well, can't stop the recording without the cursor. All right. My name's Kevin. I'm the atypical cripple. I'll see you on the next bounce.